and I understand the importance of the bill, but there are issues that I would like to raise with you, Minister, in relation to the health care of our children and our young population. But firstly, let me say to you that the Department of Health under Minister Harris has the handy knack of creating a smokescreen, such as the introduction of this bill now at this particular time, when there are so many huge issues that are being debated publicly around the provision of health services. 1 million people on waiting lists of one kind or another, the issues around cervical cancer and the availability of new drugs to people. So as all of that is being debated and the controversy is ongoing, the Minister then introduces this bill. So forgive me if I doubt him somewhat in relation to his sincerity around the timeframes and so on involved here, because in it he says there are 9 sections to the bill, all of which will be commenced at different stages by ministerial order. So you would imagine that if the legislation was that urgent, that it would be specified clearly in the bill, step by step, as to where we were going with the legislation, and there would be less use of ministerial order. In this case, it is 9 sections, and it's all on ministerial order. The other thing that I take issue with is the importance, as laid out in the Minister's brief here, which talks about the entity that will be the new board. And it talks about, and it's an interesting point, because this highlights just where the Department of Health and the HSE is. It's approved a new consultative approach to agreeing a brand image, an operational name for the new entity. The naming process to be undertaken by the Children's Hospital Group will be a short list of names for the government endorsement prior to announcement. There seems to be more weight given to the creation of a corporate entity and the concern all around that than there is to dealing with the real issues in health and the care of children. So when you compare that statement with the waiting lists for Temple Street, Crumlin and Tala from 2018, 44,615 waiting. And when you break down that number to those waiting for 12 months plus, it's 16,862. You go on further and you look at the waiting list of 18 months plus, and it's 10,304. And outpatients is just a disgrace, because that increased by 33% from 33,492 to 44,615. It's absolutely outrageous. And the bill that we're passing today is going to deal with something in the future, commenced by ministerial order. And the date has been shifted out time and time again. You know, this is generally on the books for consideration since 2012. In fact, the government promised this hospital in the last term from 2011. The Minister and current Taoiseach promised it in 2019. Now we're being told it's 2022. Now, I welcome the hospital. I welcome the development because I believe that in the overall it will improve the health care of the youngest in our society. But what I can't understand is the emphasis on this corporate structure and the turning of a blind eye to what is currently happening in relation to the care of those children. So what parents all around the country will want to know is, they will want to know what's going to happen. My child that's on the waiting list between now and 2022 when you say that this is going to be delivered? That's what they will want to know. And I would like to see you address that issue and give some sort of time frame to those parents for the care of their children, because that's the biggest concern in their lives. And I wouldn't say there's a member in this House that would disagree with prioritising the health of young children. To deprive them of the health care, as you are with the waiting list, 16,000, is to deprive them of a quality of life that they are entitled to now and not in 2022. So can you address how you are going to deal with the waiting lists that are currently there? No waffle, no bluff, just facts. Tell us the facts in a given time frame so that they can plan for the future of the health care of their child. Plan in a different way, in a more positive way. Because every child that's sick, every child that's threatened to have a poor future of health is a huge concern to family, parents and their siblings. It has to be dealt with. It has to be explained. Now, this new entity, I understand, is going to be a Section 38. So if you look at that Section 38 and their accountability to this House and to Public Accounts Committee, the Minister says the CEO will be the accounting officer. Now, there has been huge difficulty in the past in dealing with Section 38s, Section 39s, in the context of their accountability to the Public Accounts Committee. And I would appeal to you to ensure that the language in this bill makes it crystal clear that the Section 38s in general, are accountable to the Public Accounts Committee. And I should add with that the Section 39s. You have to do it, Minister, to clarify the language. Otherwise, they will duck and dodge and avoid accountability and transparency, which has been the history of that sector as long as I can remember. Because the HSE, within its own culture, believes that it's above accountability. You look at the HSE and its budgets every single year, and if we were realistic in looking at those budgets, and take this year alone, with all of what is required to keep it going and what it has spent, it is going to be €1 billion over budget. And that's not an exaggeration. Yes, you'll bluff the figures again, you'll massage them to make them look okay, but every single year it has gone from a bad position to a worse position and then to a position of almost not being able to deal with the overrun. If you don't get that in hand, you are not serving the department or the health of the country very well, and you're allowing it to happen. And that's my concern in relation to the accountability of this new structure. The other concern I have is that if you're amalgamating these hospitals and you have one unit and there are other services that will be provided, and the Minister in his statement today said that it provides a unique opportunity to introduce a new model of care for paediatric services. What does that mean? How will that new model of care impact on the waiting lists that are currently there and will remain stubbornly so because your government lacks the vision, humanity and compassion to deal with those lists? So can you tell me what that means and what is the tangible result going to be for the children that are on those waiting lists? There's an obligation on you to explain this. There's an obligation on Minister Harris to ensure that all this happens. And you'll forgive me for using the word bluff, But the fact of the matter is, you bluffed the Irish electorate into believing that you were going to rectify the health services. You bluffed them into believing that you were going to burn every quango in the place. And in the last term and this term, you have put further quangos into place without any bother to you.